Good evening, everyone. It's on or about... No, it's not. It's on or about 6:57 p.m., and I'll call this meeting to order. I have a motion moved by Councillor LeBlanc, seconded by Councillor Tadman, that Council approve the April 1st, 2019 Council meeting agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Are there any opposed? All in favor? Are there any opposed? The motion's carried. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest, and if so, please state the general nature thereof. Councillor Anderson, with your microphone, please.
It's item number 10.1. I believe I have to declare on that, and I've submitted already.
Thank you. Councillor Bateman?
The same.
Councillor Bateman is also declaring on 10.1. Are there any other declarations? And gentlemen, you're supposed to state the general nature thereof. I assume it's because you're both named in that motion?
Right, correct.
Very well. Anyone else? Are there any announcements this evening? Councillor Rowley.
I would like to make a couple of announcements, and it's just basically a reminder to the public that on this Saturday at Whole Health is a Gift of the Heart, the free, I would say, personal hygienic or dental hygienic issues you might have for those who may otherwise not be able to visit a dentist. And then as well on Sunday is the Adams Hope fundraiser at King Edward Park. I believe that begins at 11. Or at 10 with a walk at 11.
Thank you, Councillor Rowley. Councillor Tadman?
I always like to have a little humor in a meeting. Is April Fool's Day over?
It is as of noon, but you can do something if you'd like to try to...
Can you make a motion that I can move forward? I was just, we just finished, we deferred budget meetings till later. Maybe I could say that council, listening to the old lady here on council, would like to reduce the 4.78 plus 1% that the mayor's suggesting down to 2.5. But if April Fool's Day is over, I guess maybe I'm going to lose that vote.
Very well. Any other announcements? Councillor Bateman?
I'd just like to thank the people of Brighton, the residents that bought tickets. We had the NHL alumni game yesterday in Whitby. We had sold several tickets, or quite a few tickets here, and had some support from companies to purchase some tickets. We had a group from the Beacon Youth Center join us there. We had some from the Legion as well. We took some minor hockey. Well, their minor hockey teams were playing up there, but they also got to participate in an event I set up with the NHL alumni where they got to have some skill development. And the Special Olympians, the Youth Special Olympics, were there as well with their medals. So it was a good day all around, packed house, and a lot of money went to the Special Olympics, and some is being donated to Raise the Roof, Art on Main, and Brighton Minor Hockey. So it was a good day all the way around.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, and sorry, I have to thank ENSS Razzmatazz made the trip and sang the national anthem for the event as well, and did a very good job.
Very well, thank you. Any other announcements? And just a reminder that April is Daffodil Month for the Canadian Cancer Society, so if you see the Society selling their daffodils or their daffodil pins, please consider making a purchase toward the Cancer Society. And it is also Be a Donor Month, so if you have not signed up to be a registered organ donor, this would be the month to do it. About 33% of Ontarians are registered donors, but if tragically anything were to happen, it is a good opportunity to help other people save lives, and one person can save up to 8 lives, so that's a really interesting statistic. I have a motion moved by Councillor Vink, seconded by Councillor Bateman, that Council approve the March 18th, 2019 Council meeting minutes as presented. Is there any discussion? Councillor Rowley? All in favor? Any opposed? The motion's carried. I have a motion moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Councillor Tadman, that Council approve the March 26, 2019 Committee of the Whole meeting minutes as presented. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? The motion is carried. There is no statutory public meeting this evening, so our one and only delegation is the County of Northumberland, and I'll call CAO Jennifer Moore and the Finance Director, Treasurer Glenn Dees forward to make their presentation. And before you do, because you are going to take up more than the allotted 10 minutes, I have a motion moved by Councillor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Bateman. Be it resolved that pursuant to Procedural Bylaw 129-2018, subsection 13.7, Council extend the delegation time limit to 30 minutes for the presentation from the County of Northumberland, CAO Jennifer Moore, and Finance Director Treasurer Glenn Dees. Is there any discussion on that? All those in favor? Are there any opposed? That motion is carried. Nice to see you again. And good morning, or good afternoon. Whatever it is.
Turn on the side, push the button in, and then push the purple button.
There you go. There you are.
There we go, we're in business. Okay, good evening, everyone. We will try to be 30 minutes or less if we can squeak it through. We're once again pleased to come around and visit each one of our member municipalities. We do this annually. Shortly after the approval of our budget, we do try and get out and do the circuit and give a bit of an update on what happened in the past year and what's coming up in the next year. So as I mentioned, we'll start with 2018 accomplishments, then we'll touch on the 2019 priorities and initiatives, and along with that, a brief discussion on the budget. We won't spend a lot of time going into detail, but we'll hopefully hit the highlights. At the very back of your presentation, there are a number of slides in there that give some overview on the various departments at the county. We won't go over those slides this evening, but they're there for reference, and certainly if you've had a chance to take a look at them and you have any questions, we'd be more than happy to answer those while we're here. This slide here is just a snapshot of our strategic plan. As I've been telling staff as we've been doing the presentation, take a good look because it's the last time you'll see this version. We are in the midst of updating our strategic plan to reflect the new term of council and what we'll be doing over the next few years and out into the longer term. When we discuss our presentations, we typically do talk about them in relation to the strategic pillars for action that were identified in this plan. So we will speak to prosperity, sustainability, community, and excellence, both inward and outward looking priorities, and we'll go through some highlights from each of those. So we like to do it in pictures. We find it's probably a little easier to get an idea of what's going on. This won't be an exhaustive list, but it'll give you a flavor of what happened. In the pillar of prosperity, we did launch the Factory, which is a co-working space. It's now been in operation just over a year. It has been very well received by the community with over 60 members at this point in time. We're seeing that there's a lot of opportunity for our small businesses instead of working out of their home or working off a table in McDonald's or Tim Hortons or wherever they can find a place to put their laptop. They're able to work there among other small business owners. They're networking, and we're seeing them actually be able to collaborate and find some initiatives where their businesses actually complement one another. So it's certainly a popular organization now at this point. We did receive funding last year for settlement services, so we are now able to provide those services at our 600 William Street location in Cobourg, and we also have relocated the new Canadian Centre. They're now using an office in that building, so any newcomers to the county, they can receive those support services here. Before that, they were largely served out of Peterborough, so for any newer recent immigrants, they can get the supports they need to settle into the community much more effectively by being here locally. Picture of the lovely dancers there. That is our multicultural event. That's an annual festival that the county leads the coordination on. It occurs in Port Hope about the third Saturday in June. It's really starting to build some momentum. Historically, we've supported song and dance and those aspects of culture. For those that are interested, this year we're expanding that to food trucks to reflect multicultural food. I think there'll be about a dozen, so certainly invite everyone out to celebrate the culture in our community. And then also also just a snapshot of some of the activities going on at the Agri-Food Venture Center, and we're seeing that is certainly getting a great foothold, and we're seeing a lot of activity there around food entrepreneurs, and right now we're booked into the early summer particularly for the commercial kitchen. The Business Entrepreneurship Center hosted its first entrepreneurship conference last fall. It was a huge hit. We found that what we're seeing is we helped over 111 businesses, and that created about 135 jobs last year. And we're seeing that conferences like the Entrepreneurship Conference and bringing in some great guest speakers, offering those networking opportunities, is being very well received by our small businesses and really helping them settle in and create jobs. We also were working on the land use and environmental studies for a major employment area. That is a study that got underway last year. Still a little more work to do on that. We also kicked off our natural heritage system plan. This one is looking at all natural aspects of land use planning. It looks at agriculture. It looks at forestry. It looks at waterways. And it takes all of that into perspective and documents it in an overall plan. We've also been doing some branding, and we've talked a lot about how people identify and what do our residents say about Northumberland County. What does it mean to them? How would they describe it? And it came out loud and clear because they told us that the natural components are really what speaks to them about Northumberland. It's the rolling hills, it's the water, it's the green space, and we saw a really big turnout to come and provide their feedback on the Natural Heritage System Plan. The community is very interested in this and very interested in the land uses, both in how we are able to use and capitalize on those natural features, but also how we can protect them going forward. And I think I've captured everything else on this slide, other than the bottom point where we talk about employment lands in our digital mapping project. And again, that's at business attraction, particularly around manufacturing and looking at the properties that we have and helping those site selectors have the resources that they need. Sustainability is the next pillar. And sustainability is always the pillar where we can show some really cool pictures, because this is all the things that the assets that we have, that we own, we operate, what we're building, what we're renovating, where we're doing major maintenance projects. The picture up in the top left corner is one that we're very excited about, very proud of. This was the announcement last spring that granted the county permission to move forward with the redevelopment of our long-term care home and to add 29 additional beds. So that was announced at that point. Since then, we've been working closely with an architectural firm. They have gone through the schematic design that was presented to County Council about a month and a half ago, and now we're into the detailed design component. We are also into the site plan draft approval process as well. So it is moving along. Very exciting. There is a web page that we've developed, so anyone that is interested in following along with that project, you can see what the designs look like and the different components and how it will impact the residents in that new building. Certainly a much more positive experience for the residents and their families, as well as the staff that work there. You can see a picture of paving. We had some great projects. We did a number of paving projects last year, as well as our surface treatment initiative. About February of last year, we kicked off a partnership with Alderville First Nation. We are now providing waste management services for them on a cost recovery basis. They had previously done that on their own, and they were not able to offer a full suite of waste management services, such as recycling, to their residents. There are only a little over 350 residents, so it's a great partnership with our neighbor here in the community. The picture there of trap number 3, that is really to show that our forest is being used for many different aspects. We think about the recreation. In this case, it's a partnership with the Ministry of Natural Resources. They were using our assets to monitor oak wilt, but we've had many other partnerships with various educational institutions into our forest and using that asset. As I mentioned, the Golden Plough Lodge redevelopment is a major project for us, and I didn't mention a minute ago that we are co-locating the county archives in that facility. So they're currently located downtown Cobourg in the public library. They will be co-located at this facility to expand their research and display space. We're seeing a lot of interest from the community, and genealogical tourism is now a thing, that these resources are sought after. We completed the Roseneath Emergency Services base last year. The paramedics moved in December. That's our second joint facility with the Olmec Haldeman Fire Department are also located there. And actually today, I believe the contractors broke ground on the Campbellford base as well, and it will be a similar facility with the fire and paramedics being co-located. A little different because it will also include some administration and council space for the municipality of Trent Hills, but you can see the architectural rendering there of what that building will look like. Waste Services, as I mentioned, we are now partnered with Alderville, and you may have noticed driving around the county that there's a lot more cycling lanes that are being constructed. We did a major rehab of County Road 2 or Elgin Street in Cobourg. We were able to do a dedicated cycling lane on the north side. We actually developed a multi-use trail on the south. The cyclists are very pleased with that, but we've also been very intentional about paving the shoulders of our roads in rural areas, and we're seeing again a lot of use from residents, but also a lot of use from tourists, and cyclotourism is certainly growing. They love the views here in the county. Our asset management system was launched January 1st. This, as I've been telling everybody, is not necessarily the snazziest project that we have, but certainly a very important one. You're probably well aware that this is a requirement of the province that we enhance how we manage our assets. Having asset management plans and reports are mandatory. They're being phased in for exactly how that's required, but this was our first step in making sure that we capture all that data, and it is certainly going to change and shape the way we deliver services in the future, with things like a customer service component to it, and the way that we can use, we can dispatch work orders and those sorts of things. So we are now getting into the 21st century with our technology. Brighton landfill expansion and cell lining, the final phase was completed. January is when that was finally done. So now we will continue to build out the landfill until it reaches capacity. But we are also beginning our environmental assessment of how we will manage our residual waste once that site is at capacity, and we'll move forward with that in the very near future. We're also commencing a study of county-wide development charges. The whole concept of growth should pay for growth. The county does not currently have any DCs other than a very small special area in Cobourg that will move to a county-wide study and development charges within the next year. We have kicked off the Campbellford Bridge design. The RFP for design work has been awarded. That was a project that was many years in the making, so now we'll start into the nuts and bolts of that. Last year, we surface treated about 141 kilometers of county and member municipality roads, the majority of that being for our member municipalities. And we did some metrics, and that saves almost $1 million by doing it with county resources rather than using the private sector companies. We resurfaced about 18 kilometers of county roads. That's a fairly busy year for us. Normally we're a little less than that, so it was a big year last year. And about 13 kilometers of pavement preservation or microsurfacing is what that would be. Minister of Finance did grant us approval. There was a consultation and review for the property tax vacancy rebate program that was put out to consultation and overwhelming support from the community and approved by County Council. So we did finally receive approval for that. The digital strategy, the engagement phase was completed last year. We're now continuing to put that study together. In the next few weeks, there will be a public consultation online, so we'd encourage everybody to provide your feedback to that. This is looking at a whole host of aspects of how the county will deliver our services directly, but also how what the community is looking for, what businesses are looking for, and so on. Again, we do a lot to get out into the community and support the community with a number of our services. One of them that we were quite excited was the launch of the Farm 911 or the Emily project, and getting signs out to denote rural locations, particularly farmers' fields where they don't have civic addresses. So we did launch that, and hopefully you've seen some of those going up around the county. We try to encourage public engagement. We have the lovely painted snowplow blades there. That's an initiative each fall with Local Government Week to bring the kids out, and we get them we drop off a plow at their school and some paints and they do decorate them up, and we ask our illustrious counselors to vote for the best, and the winning class gets an all expenses paid to our recycling facility as well as a pizza lunch. So it's a fun activity, but really does try and get the kids involved in local government and what we do for services. Everyone looking intently at the maps crowded around of the table there. That was our emergency exercise last year. We've been going through and partnering with our member municipalities. Last year was Alnwick Haldeman, and the mock exercise was setting the county forest on fire and working through exactly how we would manage that, how you would rescue individuals in the forest, how we would look at neighboring properties like the donkey sanctuary. So they were very creative, of course, and lots of great learnings. The picture of the teepees, that's to do with our Early On program. Last year, the county fully took on the Early On program delivery. Previously, it had been done by a private daycare center known as the Early Years. The Indigenous component was some special funding that we received to offer Indigenous teachings, and we saw that not only were our off-reserve Indigenous folks very interested in their children participating, but our non-Indigenous community was very excited to have that programming offered. Monroe Street is an affordable housing project in Cobourg that is investment in affordable housing funding that being administered by the county. It is being built, and it will be owned and operated by a private developer. It'll be about 30 units of seniors affordable housing, and we should see occupancy this year. We've also launched our affordable housing strategy. A lot of work and consultation was done on that throughout 2018. Last month it was presented to County Council, and it was approved to move forward based on the draft framework, and then we'll see in the next few weeks there will be the individual municipal frameworks coming forward for approval and presentations to each member municipality as well. There is a huge demand for affordable housing across the county with very, very low vacancy rates, as well as challenges in home ownership. So there's a lot of tools and strategies in that document that we can hopefully implement and try to start to address that need. We continue to operate the Food for All warehouse. Again, it's a success story, but unfortunate that it is a success story. We do deliver or distribute about 1.5 million pounds of food each year. We continue to see that demand being steady or increasing with food security challenges. And we have some great partners around the community, and some pictures here from the Classic Rock Restock event. One of the local radio stations comes on board to do a fall program, and this year they also did that for Easter to fill food cupboards. As I mentioned, we did our emergency training exercise, and you can see some pictures there, again, of the TP teachings, as well as the Take Your Kids to Work Day, and another initiative to try and get our youth involved and knowledgeable on the careers available in municipal government. Each year, the paramedics do fundraise and acquire defibrillators, the AEDs, to go out in the community. Last year, 2 of them went to the waterfront in Cobourg. We do distribute those throughout the county, with 1 or 2 going out each year. We did have our 4th annual Survivor Day event, and of course that does recognize the first responders that participated in a successful resuscitation after a cardiac arrest. It can be quite an emotional event at times, and we had some of our paramedics recognized with the Governor General Award. The new 211 services, that's a great new partnership with the United Way, and that's of course for all the social services, nonprofits deliver those services, as well as government agencies, and helping our community members access those. We did complete our 2nd homelessness enumeration. The data was very consistent with the one that had been done 2 years prior. Not a significant change there, but there is certainly a continuing need to address those challenges. As I mentioned, a significant expansion to the Early Years program, now becoming Early On, and a move out into our more rural areas. It was very urban focused previously, and this is getting even some temporary outreach initiatives into our more rural settings. We did receive some significant childcare expansion funding to support children with needs, and as I mentioned, the Indigenous programming was also very well received. We do work on the Pillar of Excellence. This is a little more inward focusing on how we deliver our services and ways that we can continue continue to be effective and efficient. And we all know that those are the buzzwords now that we need to continue looking at that. We have launched a new website, or I shouldn't say launched. It will be launched later this week, I believe April 4th. We will encourage everybody to go and take a look. Our old website had just passed its useful life. We've done a bit of work to ensure more consistency in branding with our vehicles, as well as some safety enhancements. So when our folks are out and about, they have appropriate striping on the vehicles so they can be seen. Each year we do an annual report. And it is, again, about accountability and transparency. Our new report will be available May, June of this year, but it talks about the county's financials and our audited statements, but it also gives some commentary and talks about where the tax dollars go, how our programs operate, and what some of the major achievements are each year. And then the picture down the bottom, that is our new Powerlift stretchers. We did outfit our fleet of ambulances with the new stretchers, and certainly becoming the standard as far as paramedic services across the province, and will go a long way to helping prevent and address ergonomic challenges that our paramedics face with the number of lifts that they do. It's also a very smooth ride for anybody that does have to take a ride in the ambulance. I got to try one out, and it was it's an amazing tool that they now have with the Powerlift stretchers. We did finalize our IT strategic plan, and we've also been launching lean training, and we've been able to complete a couple of projects, and we have a number of others on the way. That is a philosophy of management, looking at eliminating waste and duplication, and how we can streamline and make our projects more efficient. We continue to roll that out with our staff training as we continue to see more and more folks across the county, and we'll lead for all county staff to at least have a minimum level of training so that they can participate in making sure that we're asking the right questions and being as effective and efficient as possible. On this end of the county, you may not have noticed yet, we started around Cobourg and Hamilton Township to address the emerald ash borer. We have a 10-year strategy where we will remove the hazardous trees along our roadsides primarily. We have removed several at this point, and it'll be phased over a number of years. That wood is being quarantined. It'll be tendered after it's sat for a year. So we are also doing a replacement 10-to-1 with saplings made available to the public for planting on private property for every tree that is removed. And of course, we continue to work on safety initiatives. So with that, I will turn it over to Glenn to hit some of the highlights on the financials and the budget.
Thank you. Okay, excuse me. Good evening, everybody. So you should have a budget infographic that was provided to you. Primarily what this is, it's a two-page document. So one side looks specifically at the county's 2019 budget. So it looks at our source of funds. It looks at how our funds are spent, how they're allocated to each of the county departments for service delivery. It also allocates our budget between operating and capital as well. On the flip side of the infographic, what we are presenting is information specific to the county's 10-year long-term financial plan. So as part of our budgetary cycle, each year we do update a 10-year model, and it looks in detail at both our operating and capital forecasts. The infographic also highlights some of the major capital items that are embedded within this model, and it provides for a forecast of what we anticipate over 10 years for our reserves, as well as what we anticipate for debt servicing costs. Just to provide a little bit of context, the county's budget is by no means insignificant for 2019. It's $123 million, with just over $56 million of this coming from the levy or through property taxation. A little bit of insight into our budgetary process. We start our budgetary process in June. We go to County Council and we set a target levy rate increase. This gives us a known assumption as we go through the process of about 6 months in developing the budgets with the departments, doing our consolidations, public engagement, and various meetings leading up to the presentation of the draft budget in December. Just to give a little context on the extent of our budget, when we uploaded the budget for 2019, we had over 2,900 budget lines that we uploaded into our accounting software. The target that we do establish with County Council is done primarily looking at two indices. We look at the CPI, but we also look at the non-residential construction price index, which is really more indicative of how we spend our capital dollars. For 2019 and the long-term plan, the target was set, and you'll see it on the infographic, at 2.5% in June with County Council, but ultimately the county budget was approved for our base levy at 2% after growth in January. Just to provide a little bit of context on what that means, a reduction of 0.5 percentage point in the county's budget for a property owner with an average detached home, it works out to just under $6 in property tax savings. But if we take that 0.5 percentage point reduction in our 2019 budget, which is then the base year going into our long-term model, and then reduce it in each year of the long-term model as well from 2.5 down to 2%, it results in about $19 million cumulatively of capacity that we lose within our long-term model. Sorry, Jennifer. Thanks. So I'm just going to touch on some of the financial risks that we have primarily within our long-term model. The county budgets over the past several years have become much tighter, and this is really indicative of the surpluses that we've seen looking at our actual results. So in 2017, you'll see that our surplus only came in at 0.4% of the county's budget, and in 2018, we were actually at risk of running into a deficit position as a result of some uncontrollable costs and unforeseen reduction in revenues. There is a risk of insufficient financial capacity within our reserves for budget stabilization, contingency, as well as for minimization of debt going out into the longer term model. An example of this is just recently we undertook a new actuarial valuation of our WSIB liability requirements, and it increased by $900,000. So now in effect we are underfunded for our WSIB requirements by $900,000. That's really related to PTSD claims in our paramedics department, which is common for many municipalities with first responder type services. The other significant risk that we have at the county level is about 35% of our revenues comes from grants and subsidies. The provincial average for municipalities is about 20% of source of funds for the province, so we are very much dependent on provincial dollars. Given the fiscal restraint at the provincial level, what we're seeing with the province trying to manage their deficits, there certainly is a concern for us going out into future years for the sustainability of funding, and many of this funding is tied into mandatory service delivery in the areas of social services, social housing, long-term care, and paramedics. We also are looking at some significant inflationary pressures related to capital. So we're providing some metrics here looking at the GTA, the non-residential construction price index for 2018 was at 5.7%, and in Ottawa it was actually higher at 6.7%. So this is really a measure that we look at relevant to construction type activities. And we do have some major undertakings within our 10-year model, which you'll see in your infographic. So we have the Golden Plough Lodge rebuild for $70 million. We know now that's likely going to be more like a $100 million project now that we've completed a Class C estimate with our architects going through design services and going from 151 beds to 180 beds. So when we're seeing inflationary pressures like this for construction type activities, it certainly is a concern in ensuring that we have the financial capability within our long-term model. Quickly on this slide, this just gives a visual on where the county has been over the past 4 years in looking at our comparator municipalities. So this is looking at the upper tier municipalities in the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus. So all upper tier municipalities, and you'll see the county represented by the green bar has been significantly less in most years over the past 4 years with our levy increases versus our comparator municipalities. I'll also also note that this is inclusive of growth. So given our proximity to the GTA, our growth has likely been higher than what some of our comparator municipalities have experienced. And in light of that, we still are quite a bit less than some of our comparator municipalities. The other thing I will mention is that we are a full-service municipality, which none of our comparator municipalities are. This next slide just provides a quick visual of that, so you can see that the county is checking all the boxes here for the services that we provide, whereas none of our comparator municipalities do provide the same breadth of services that the county does. This slide is highlighting the priorities and initiatives that we have in 2019, but in the interest of time, I won't get into all of these, but Jennifer has touched on most of them as part of her presentation as well. So with that concludes the presentation. As Jennifer mentioned, there are supplementary slides that provide some fast facts on all the county departments as well as their cost on a budgetary perspective, but we can certainly open it up for any questions that council may have.
Well, thank you very much, both of you, for your presentation, and I will ask members of council if they have any questions of Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. I'm just wondering what percent of the levy on this budget sheet belongs to Brighton?
I don't know off the top of my head. I want to say 12-15% of the levy would come from Brighton.
Okay, yeah, I'm just curious about how much Brighton is paying to the county for economic development, so I'm just trying to figure that out with these percents that are on here.
I can get you that information. I wouldn't have it off the
Okay, that would be great. Thank you.
Specifically for economic development.
Yes, that's what I'm interested in.
Any other questions from members of council? Councillor Rowley?
I have two, if that's okay, Mayor.
Sure.
My first one would be, do we know how many years we have left as far as the landfill goes? And once it's full, is there a plan to either expand or move or something?
They're currently looking at the total capacity. We probably have another 6-7 years-ish, approximately. They're looking, since we did all the cell development, they're reassessing exactly what the capacity is, but that's approximately what we have. We're in the process of kicking off an environmental assessment that will go through an assessment of all of our options for residual waste. So it will take into consideration expanding on the current site, trucking it somewhere else, incineration, looking at all of those options. It will evaluate them for cost, complexity, what the residents desire. They'll look for community input. All that'll be put in the mix, and then there'll be a recommendation brought forward on which one of those options would be the best suited for Northumberland.
So those processes will happen over the next few years?
It should kick off, I think they actually have our consultant on board to help us go through that process with the consultation, and that'll happen very soon. It'll start, but it'll take a number of years to complete.
Thank you.
Another question?
Yes, one more question. Could you please tell me what the growth percentage for the county is over this last?
So the growth is about 1.7% overall for the county. Yeah.
Councillor LeBlanc? Councillor Tadman?
I'm probably stealing one of your questions, and I think you're going to talk about Lawson Settlement Road and other places. Yes. Okay, I'll leave that with you. So I only have one. What is the oak wilt? I've never heard of that one.
It's a type of disease. A big part of Northumberland's forest is that we have some very unique, like the black oak savanna.
Yeah.
So those are very unique ecosystems in the forest. So that's why they want to monitor whether that is there and whether it's spreading. So there's any number of things that they monitor for different diseases, bugs, movement of animals, habitat. So that's part of it.
Okay, and just further, this isn't a question, it's just a comment. You do an awful lot of work and still maintain a pretty reasonable tax increase, so thank you.
Councillor LeBlanc?
Yes. Thank you for leaving that question for me, Mayor Tadman. You know I would ask it. I've a very nice slide presentation, very well put up. I've seen everything from Port Hope, Coburg, Campbellford, and where you are. But when you did something in Brighton, which is Lawson Settlement Road and Lawson Road. Basically, we did a surface treatment of the road, and it's less than 5 months old, and it's falling apart. So on the last council meeting, I asked our roads and grounds to bring the contractor back for a warranty to fix the road. So in his answer to me, he says, we did it with the county. You don't have a bond, and you don't have insurance to cover for the cost of making that road, but you're cheaper than a contractor. But if we got a contractor, we would have a bond and we would have a warranty. Because the road now, the surface that they use, you got potholes going out through the center. It's like a corduroy road, and the type of tar you use didn't hold the stone, so when they went on it, they did snow plowing, it all went into the ditches and it all mounted. So some of the citizens approached me with it as soon as the snow started going and everything. So I brought it up to council. This is how I found out. So if you're going to do roads, and you probably do good roads, do you think you should have a bond and insurance to cover the work that you do?
I think that in the past, it's been a joint project, so it's been a lot of the road prep, and a lot of the materials are supplied by member municipalities. So I'm not sure of this particular project and how that worked, but in each one of the projects, there typically has been a collaborative effort, and that's one of the ways that costs are kept down, is that there's both roads crews at the upper tier and the member municipality work together, and they decide which components of that project that each one will do. There's also been significant collaboration if there is any issue with the quality of that work. They have worked together to resolve those issues.
Just
Do you have a follow-up?
Follow-up. I'm glad to see that you have brushing taking over in the next 10 years. It'll be taking place, but some of our ditches, like Highway 2, County Road 64s, right now they have poplar trees growing right in the center of the ditch, the drainage, that are 10 to 12 years old. In another 10 years, by the time you get to them, they're going to be about this size. So just wondering if we can speed some up, because we are speeding ours up, and we'd like to see some of yours.
We move through the county, and we do ditching throughout the county. Where we're doing road works, we prioritize those. So if there's a significant paving contract or whatever, those are the roads that they concentrate on, and then they look at other problem areas and they prioritize the need. So if there's a particular issue, then we can certainly advise the roads crew, and they can go and have a look at it and fit it into their program if it's creating issues with the flow of water. I don't know where those particular locations would fit in our overall ditching program, but they are out ditching on an ongoing basis, and anything that's scheduled for resurfacing, it would be at the top of the list. So,
and my question wasn't, and I got your question to give you something that you weren't prepared for. It's just a concern that I have from our citizens, that if we're going to move forward, we got to have some type of warranty to bring somebody back to do the repairs. That's all.
and I think it might not be a formal written warranty, but I think the folks do work collaboratively, and if there's anything that's failed in the road, they will come back and look at it and work with the municipality to ensure that
Thank you.
it's dealt with.
Deputy Mayor?
Actually, that was kind of my question. I just wanted to be reassured that if we work collaboratively on it, that if there's an issue, that'll be fixed in the same way. So that's really what I was wondering. Thank you.
Councillor Tadman?
I don't think I was hearing things, and I think we were told that it wasn't necessarily the county's problem because we had used the wrong granular.
That was on one of the roads.
Yeah, and it might have been that one. So I don't think we can totally sit here and say one's at fault and not the other. And I think that needs to be checked out.
Yeah, and I think what we're hearing is this is a collaborative effort between the municipality and the two municipalities, and we'll continue to work together. And I know Mr. Parkinson's hearing this story, and I'm sure he can contact Mr. Panu, the Director of Public Works. What is Mo's title? Doesn't matter. Mr. Parkinson's cohort at the counterpart at the county. So thank you. Anything else?
Thank you.
Councillor Rowley.
Thank you. Just, I was wondering if the county is promoting the pitch-in initiative this year, the Mayor's Challenge. I haven't really seen anything about that yet, but I'm
I
assuming
just heard about it this morning, actually,
Oh,
so I
well,
haven't
you
been
know,
able to
and I-
talk to members of council about that, but
I
it's
think I saw
the...
something on Facebook today.
Oh, well,
I
there you
think.
are. Haven't been on Facebook
Okay, well,
much.
I haven't seen it either, but I was just, I'm thinking April is, it's time to start cleaning up the garbage.
promotion is supposed to go next week sometime, but maybe it's started on social media already, and it is the week following Easter.
Yeah. And that'll be the barbecue at the recycling plant and the same thing that we normally have.
Anything else from members of council? Thank you again, both very much. Appreciate your time and coming and making this presentation. And I have a motion moved by Councillor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Bateman, that council receive the presentation from the County of Northumberland, CAO Jennifer Moore, and Finance Director Treasurer Glenn Dees, to present the county's 2018 accomplishments, 2019 priorities, and budget highlights. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? The motion is carried. Safe drive home. Mr. Castleman, do you see any citizens' comment in the bin beside the projector? No? None? Thank you. We have no staff reports this evening. We do have a motion before council. We'll just let everyone know that both Councillors Bateman and Anderson have applied to be representatives for Zone 5 for Roma. And should they be chosen, one of them be chosen, we know they'll be excellent representatives for Zone 5 and especially excellent representatives for the municipality of Brighton. So... Can I have a mover for this, please? Councillor Rowley. Seconder, Councillor LeBlanc. Be it resolved that Council for the Municipality of Brighton is pleased to note that Councillor Ron Anderson and Councillor Mark Bateman are excellent candidates for the position of Roma Zone 5 representative of the 2019 to 2023 Roma Board. Either Brighton councillor would make an excellent addition to the Roma Board for the remainder of the board term. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? The motion is carried. Good luck, gentlemen. There is no unfinished business. We move on to bylaws. I have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Vink, seconded by Councillor Bateman, that council gives a bylaw its first, second, and third reading and finally passes on this date. Being a bylaw to constitute and appoint a committee of adjustment for the period of January 1st, 2019 to November 30th, 2019. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Are there any opposed? I'm going to try that again. All in favor? Any opposed? The motion is carried. We have no reports of advisory committees of council or minutes of council reports. We have no reports or minutes of statutory committees, boards, or external agencies. Oh, yes, we do. Pardon me. We have one report. I have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Vink, seconded by Councillor Bateman, that council receive the DBIA February 2019 meeting minutes as presented. Is there any discussion? Councillor Rowley?
I really don't have any comments to make on this, but it just reminded me that a week or so ago, we had a wonderful evening at King Edward Park, the Business Awards that was hosted by the Chamber, which I know the municipality was a sponsor as well as the DBIA, and it was a well-attended evening, and it was a lot of fun.
It was a good night. Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? The motion is carried. Correspondence, direction items, endorsements, communications, and petitions. And I have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Vink, seconded by Councillor Bateman. The council, which is it, folks? Receive or support request to waive fees for the use of King Edward Park Community Center for the presentation by Charlene Giebauer, Digital Supervision, Tuesday, May 7th, 2019, hosted by the Beacon Youth Center. Deputy Mayor Vink says support. Councillor Bateman, you okay with that?
Yes.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Are there any opposed? The motion is carried. I have a motion moved by Councillor Bateman, seconded by Councillor Anderson. And folks, you really need to read these because we have another one that doesn't show me whether we're receiving or supporting, that council receive or support proclamation request for Multiple Sclerosis Society Northumberland chapter to proclaim May 9th, 10th, 11th, 2019 as Carnation Days in the municipality of Brighton. Councillor Bateman, as the mover, do you want to receive or support?
Support.
Councillor Anderson?
Support.
Very well. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? The motion is carried. I have a motion moved by Councillor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Bateman, that council receive or support request to endorse the resolution from the City of Quinte West regarding adopting a policy to promote the use of municipal drinking water. Councillor Anderson, receive or support?
Receive.
Councillor Bateman, you agree with that?
I'm good with that, yes.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? The motion is carried. We have no FYI correspondence. I will open the floor to question period. If you have a question, questions are to be asked with regard to items on our agenda this evening. Mr. Green, please step forward. State your name for the record.
Thank you, David Green.
We'll be going in camera.
Questions and a comment. What is ROMA?
The Rural Ontario Municipal Association.
Thank you. And I can't phrase this as a question, but thank you for supporting the request at the community center. And if you can, please put our May 7th date on your calendar. It's going to be an excellent presentation. And you will hear more about that as a delegation on the 15th of April.
We look forward to it. Thank you, Mr. Green. Any other questions from members of the public? So I will take a 12-minute recess, and then we will go in camera. Candace? So it is 8:03. I'll call the meeting back to order. I have a motion moved by Councillor Rowley, second by Councillor Tadman, that council resolve itself into closed session April 1st, 2019 at 8:03 p.m. pursuant to the Ontario Municipal Act 2001 as amended, subsection 239(2)B. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? The motion is carried. I have a motion moved by Councillor Tadman, and it's seconded by Councillor LeBlanc, but Councillor LeBlanc, I'm going to seek another seconder because we name you in this motion. So, Deputy Mayor Vink. So moved by Councillor Tadman, seconded by Deputy Mayor Vink, that council receives the resignation from Daphne Dean from the Community Events Committee, and further that council appoint Doug LeBlanc as council representative of the Official Plan Review Steering Committee and the Mature Neighborhood Zoning Bylaw Steering Committee, and that council appoint the following candidates. Do I have to name each person?
We didn't do that the last time. I just did the bylaw. So just say that the bylaw.
That council appoint citizens to the following committees.
Get way up.
I'll just say to the following committees, and you'll bring a bylaw forward. No? Oh, well.
I'm just changing the Schedule A, and in the bylaw it says that we can do that by resolution.
Okay, so council appoints citizens to the following committees and direct staff to amend Schedule A. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? The motion is carried. Oops. I have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Vink, seconded by Councillor Bateman. The council gives the bylaws for second and third reading and finally passes on this date, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the corporation of the Municipality of Brighton Council meeting held on April 1st, 2019. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? The motion is carried. And I have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Vink, seconded by Councillor Bateman, that the April 1st, 2019 council meeting adjourn at 8:40 p.m. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? The motion is carried.